Right.
But if the situation presents itself, more than one.
Probably should have told you this before, but I do have an in memoriam slide. So I probably should have told you that. I have an in memoriam slide that just says we'd like to recognize this. Oh, you don't have to read it.
I was going to say, good thing I can't.
I was just saying.
Is it up there now?
I can have them put it there now. Yeah.
All right, if we can get somebody to close the doors, please. All right, the first thing we need to do, we need to call to order the Virginia Sheriff's Institute General Membership Meeting. All in favor? Lenny and Sheriff Crawford. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from the June 10th, 2021 General Membership Meeting? If so, do I hear a motion to approve? All in favor? Motion passes. Next is the audited financial report for the period ending June 30, 2021. Do you want to go over that, John?
The the last audit report is in your book, and this is the audited report through June the 30th, 2021, and we'll be, of course, undergoing another audit at the end of this fiscal year, which is June the 30th, 2022. So this is the last completed audit report, and I'll go through this. Just call your attention to page 3 of the audit report. Our total assets are $2,624,038. If you'll flip over to page 4, the total revenue for the year is $1.7 million, $1,730,560. And total expenses, $1,066,951. So as of June the 30th of 21, we operated in the black of $663,609. That's all I have, a motion to accept it. Well, after they do that, I'm going to give a quick report on the incident.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the audit report? All in favor? Motion carries.
Now, since the audit was done, there was an incident that the membership needs to know about that has already been reported to the board. And I want to describe to the members what happened. There's nothing in the notebook on this because it happened in the current fiscal year, and we haven't gone through an audit since then. As you know, the Virginia Sheriff's Institute does the license plate for the Heroes Live Forever. Every time a license plate is purchased, there's $25 that goes into a special fund, and that in October of every year, DMV sends the Virginia Sheriff's Institute the money that's derived from that. The Virginia Sheriff's Institute for the past 20 or so years has been sending the money to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. Nothing different this year. We got a check for $65,430, and it usually comes in October. And usually in November and December, we send the money to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. So this year, when we sent before we do the check, we have a certification that we always have the executive director of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund sign with the address and certifying that they will use the money for the intended purpose as prescribed by the Virginia Code. And they sign that, and when they certify that, then we'll process a check and send it. So we went through that process, and we never got the form back, so we didn't do the check. Then they called and say, we didn't get our check we normally get, what's going on? We said, well, we didn't get the form back. So, and I said, well, we didn't get the form, we got to have the certification. Our internal controls require that we get a certification before we do that, send a check. So they looked around, didn't have the form. We then emailed the form to the executive director and get the signed form back. And unbeknownst to us, it was certified, but it has a wrong address on it. It's the same address we've used for 20 years, but when they signed it and sent it back, they didn't change the address and they did not correct it. We didn't know they had moved. And I actually serve on that board, but I don't go to Washington at all. But anyway, they had moved, and we were using the old address, and that's what was certified. So then we get it back, and we send the check, and that's in November. Then in December, we get another call. We haven't gotten our check yet. And so we don't know. I still didn't know it was the wrong address. Check's going to the wrong place. So I was emailing with the executive director, Marcy Ferrando is her name, with the National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Fund. I said, well, look, we're having a problem with this. We will, if you want to, we will wire you the money. And at that point, she says, well, that's fine. That'll work wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm bringing into the email conversation a gentleman named Rob Ballou, and Rob Ballou is the chief financial officer for the fund. So Rob Ballou says hello, and he tells Megan, here are the wiring instructions. And that was, I guess, late one morning. About an hour later, the same email, Rob Ballou comes in and says, wait a minute, we have new wiring instructions. We made a mistake on them. Here are the wiring instructions. Same identical email. The problem is Rob Ballou had at some point tapped into a phishing. He had accepted a phishing expedition in his email and given out his password. An imposter was in his email watching for something like this to happen. The imposter came in and gave us the wiring instructions, which were to a fraudulent account. Same email, it was just now hacked, and it wasn't Rob Ballou, but it was Rob Ballou's email. So we sent the money, $65,430. That was in November, around November the 15th, I think, 14th. December gets here, they call and say, we haven't gotten our money yet. When are you going to wire it? We said, Megan said, well, we did wire it. Then we'll realize, and somebody got had, the money went out, it was diverted to this fraudulent account. We're realizing what's happened, so I called the executive director. I said, what's going on with this? She said, well, we'll run a scan and see what happened with our emails on our end. And she called me back and said, well, there was a breach in our email system, and Mr. Ballou gets something for what looks like Microsoft, enter your password for your email, and that's how folks took it over. He didn't know it. I guess they were just, watching for this to happen. So then when we realized what's happened, I notified 3 entities. The first entity was the Virginia State Police. There was an ongoing investigation on it, and they actually told me they had suspects. I don't know exactly where that is now. I talked to Gary about it yesterday or today. The second entity was the VSI Board of Directors have been kept up on us. And, of course, that was our notification. It was 2, to notify the board and the state police. So that's where we are with it. It's in terms of full disclosure. We want you to know the board of directors is now, we're going to be looking at this tomorrow at our board meeting pretty closely and making decisions on what we do in the future with this money that we are entrusted with and whether or not it continues to go to this National Law Enforcement Officer Memorial Fund. We have had a discussion with the chairman of the board, not the executive director, but the chairman of the board, and we said, look, we acted in good faith. We did, you know, your guys are the one that breached it, and the executive director provided us with the wrong address, certified. We think we ought to be able to rely on the right address to do a check and the instructions. All we want is for the Virginia Sheriff's Institute to get credit somehow or another for the money that's gone. And I don't know, that was a conversation of about 6 weeks ago. I indicated to them that we would be meeting in April, the board, to take it up to see where we are. During that conversation, we were told there had been 2 other breaches with the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund in a year before and a couple of years before that. So, Megan or Elizabeth, did I leave anything out? I think that pretty much covered everything. I want the membership to know we take this really seriously. And the third person I notified was our auditor, and I told him, I said, you know, we want you to know this happened and make it a part of the audit when you come back this coming August. And so we'll do that. So that's where we are with it. And we probably won't be wiring any more money anytime soon. And if we do, you know, you make a phone call ahead of time. We could have done that. We have been doing this for a long time with this National Law Enforcement Officers. It is a charitable purpose, and it's what we represented to the General Assembly we want to use the money for. And they have a wonderful memorial in Washington with all the names on the board, you know, and the museum to recognize law enforcement. So we want the money to go. We want us to get credit for what the citizens of Virginia bought the license plate, and that needs to be resolved. So that's where we are.
Actually, does anybody have any questions to John about that? Okay. Next is the nominating committee report by Sheriff Mike Mondul from Danville.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to stand before you as the nominating committee chairman, who this is proof, since I was nominated in this committee, I was actually present when they nominated me. It's not just because you miss a meeting, it's how you get nominated to be chairman or something. But let me see if my co-chair people are here as well, and that would be Sheriff Roper from Clark County, Sheriff Crawford, City of Petersburg, and Sheriff Balderson. I think I saw maybe none of them are here. If you're here, please stand up. If you're not, oh, 2 of them are here. It's hard to see in this like Hollywood lights. There we go, Sheriff. Okay, great. Great. So due to their excellent work on this committee, the nominating committee, I thought we were going to have them posted. But anyway, you've got a copy of it. Perfect. That's much nicer than the one I have in my hand here. It's got pictures and all that stuff. So the nominating committee is submitting the following nominations for consideration at this meeting. So this is our committee's recommendations. By Robert's rules and our bylaws, I'm required to call for nominations from the floor, so I will do that 3 times. Are there any nominations from the floor? Are there any nominations from the floor? Are there any nominations from the floor? Sheriff Draper, thank you. Sheriff Milholland, I think I heard. Nominations are closed. And since it comes from committee, we don't need a motion, I believe, but we do need a second to accept these. Second. Thank you, Sheriff Draper. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. The ayes have it, Mr. Chairman.
Congratulations. Next will be the annual report by John.
This should be in your report, I believe, but let me just talk about it a little bit. Mr. President and members of the Virginia Sheriff's Institute, I'm pleased to present this report at the annual conference. The VSI is a separate organization from the VSA. The VSI is organized under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, which means it's a charitable organization. It's supported, it's tax deductible by donations from citizens and businesses that contribute to the Institute. And when they make those contributions are exempt from federal income tax. 108 sheriffs are members of the Virginia Sheriff's Institute, resulting in the support of 31,700 citizens from across Virginia. Expenditures approved by the VSI board are consistent with the IRS authorization letter dated August the 25th, 1981. The tax-exempt purpose of the Virginia Sheriff's Institute include primarily the training programs, the scholarships, and other sponsorships and tax-exempt activities for tax-exempt purposes exclusively. The IRS conducted an audit of the VSI and determined that all activities of the VSI were being conducted as represented to the IRS on the 990 form. And that's online for the public to review. The books of the VSI are audited by the certified public accounting firm of Robinson, Farmer and Cox, and a report is presented at the Board of Directors meeting each year, and of course to any member and to any citizen that contributes can see that report. The VSI Board has approved policies and procedures to protect against violations of the tax code to ensure that all expenditures are consistent with VSI's tax-exempt purposes. There is no annulment allowed. In other words, no part of any net earnings from a 501c3 organization may annul to the private benefit of a shareholder. That means we can't give you any money. I can't take any money. It's got to be used only for what the IRS says we can use it for. And we got to be really careful about that, because if we violate it, we could lose our tax exemption, and that would be the kiss of death. The VSI has adopted travel policies to ensure that no funding is used for payment of spouses, family members, or anyone unauthorized for VSI expenditures. The funds of the VSI come from citizens and businesses through invitation letters they receive from your sheriffs. And thank you so much. We would not be here if you did not allow us to use your name and participate in this important program. Pursuant to the VSI board policy, VSI member sheriffs must participate in the following in order to be a member. You can't just be a sheriff and say, well, I want to be a VSI member and come to the programs and benefit and give my students scholarships unless you allow us to do the prospect letters from you, the membership renewal letters, the quarterly newsletters, which gives a report with your picture on it, and the special appeals. We have several that go out. People are used to getting them. If they ask us to take the name off, we do. It's really going pretty well. And since all of the anti-police things started a year or two ago, money has really increased coming into the VSI. The VSI has no employees, but instead contracts with the VSA for staff services, office space, office supplies, routine travel. The current annual budget of the VSI is $1,246,666. No funds from the VSI are used for any political action committee purposes, lobbying expenses, or any person inconsistent with a charitable organization. We can't use it for lobbying. We can't use it for PAC money. All of that's VSA. And this is kept totally separate, two boards of directors, separate bank accounts. It's two complete separate organizations. This year's VSI funding activities include the spring conference, the fall conference, scholarships for young people, sheriffs and deputies VCU certification program, the VSI, the weekly dispatch that we do, lawful employment training, executive management, and the new sheriff's school. Lastly, and certainly most important, is a recognition that none of this would be possible without you. You have entrusted the VSI to use your name, and we safeguard the funds that are generated and follow the IRS rules as required. Mr. President and members, sheriffs, the trust has not gone unnoticed, and we very much appreciate your participation. It has not been taken lightly. Thank you. And I got one more thing after you approve this.
Do we have a motion to approve John's annual report? And a second. All in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And we have one more special thing we're going to do right here, and John's getting ready to do that.
You know, one of the things we do, one of the things I'm most proud of is the staff that we have at the Virginia Sheriff's Association. And I know I hear all the sheriffs talk about you can't keep people on board and you have turnover. And the board of directors of the Virginia Sheriff's Association, they don't give me that problem. They provide resources. We can keep people on board, and we don't have turnover. And we have the most productive and professional staff I can imagine any organization having. And we just reached the threshold. Megan, come up here, please. So there's not a lot of organizations that can say they've had their staff people on for a long time, but at the end of March, Megan has been here 25 years. You're the best. So we wanted to stay another 25. And we got a little clock. We're going to give her a little clock or two. Presented to Megan S. Williams on the occasion of her 25th anniversary with the Virginia Sheriff's Association as an expression of appreciation for her unwavering dedication and professionalism. And she is that.
Thank you.
You want to go to Howard, please?
I don't like talking at all, and I didn't know this was happening, but thank you very much. It's an honor to work for all of you.
Thank you.
You're up.
Well, thank you, members, for your faith and trust in nominating and voting for me for president. I can't tell you how appreciated I am. I'll tell you next year when I step down. But I do appreciate it, and it is an honor. And I do want to recognize Mark, Sheriff Amos, for his work. He brought us out of the COVID years, led VSI through a tough time, and getting us back to normal. So I really appreciate your leadership for the last year for the Institute, and as a small appreciation for what you've done and your work you've done for us, I want to present you with this. It says, presented to Sheriff Mark Amos in sincere appreciation for outstanding and dedicated service as President of the Junior Sheriff's Institute 2021 to 2022. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Thank you. Most people, especially my two people over there, know that I don't speak a lot. I will say that I'm very appreciative of this. I'm very honored to have served as the president. This is the absolute best organization that I've ever been a part of, and hands down. And I want to thank John and his staff because they make it easy. They make it really easy. So thank you again.
All right, I'm going to be brief because I'm everything that stands between you and getting out of here. So I do want to say it is an honor to stand up here as your president of the VSI. I am very humbled by it. I will say to everybody, get involved with either VSA or VSI. We have a great team with the VSI, and I know the VSA does as well. And when you get on these committees and you start learning about everything that goes on, you see what a great team that really is operating on behalf of all the sheriffs and their deputies in Virginia. So it is a pleasure and an honor to be up here, and I really look forward to this next year and appreciate the support again. So with that, as my first official act, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Do I have a second? We have a second. With that, we are adjourned till tomorrow morning. Thank you very much. Oh.
We do have free hors d'oeuvres on the second floor in the little bar there by Zero Mobility. And they're open right now. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
President.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Mark.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
I have too.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sir.